Studies have shown that adopting a low-fat, plant-based diet can help in weight loss, reduce cholesterol, and reverse a type 2 diabetes diagnosis.
That's a big deal. Not only does the diet help us, but also helps the environment. So Emily Swedberg and Anthony Howe are here to tell us about how eating a plant-based diet and/or foods changed their lives. Welcome to the show, you guys.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
So, meat eaters most of your life, and then something happened, and what happened, and why did you change, and what's happened since?
Well, personally, yep, I grew up on meat and potatoes, just like everyone else in this area, and I loved my steak and everything. But I guess the more I learned about where food came from and the processes to get it, the more I wanted to change. And it was a slow transition into a fully vegan diet, which I am on now. Several years, but since that transition, I've lost over 50 pounds, despite starting up a bakery and eating many cookies since then. And I get a lot of flack from people about like, oh, you're a baker, you should weigh a lot more. But it's hard to keep on the pounds when you're eating mostly fruits and vegetables. So,
wow.
yeah.
I was going to say, you bring on so many different delicious things, but when you think about the ingredients that we're putting into it, that's where the difference really is.
Exactly.
Wow. And what about for you?
I found that I wanted to make a change in my life, and I wanted to get healthy and get into shape, and I found that this was the best way to do it after doing a lot of different research on diet and activity. I looked and found a bunch of different athletes and doctors who were promoting a plant-based vegan diet, and I started following that myself, and over the course of 18 months, I lost 20 pounds and got into the best shape of my life, better than when I was a high school athlete. So it's been a really great transformation for me, and I feel great, and I really enjoy it.
So the thing that I find, you start doing research, and it's so hard because it becomes like a rabbit hole. You know what I mean? Some people say this, some people say that. So you both have mentioned a bunch of research. What kind of research did you do, and what did you find?
For me, it was listening to a lot of podcasts. There's a lot of great information out there, specifically one website, nutritionfacts.org. It's run by a medical doctor, and he has a whole staff of team that just looks through research paper after research paper after research paper, and they just filter out what they can find about nutrition and why the plant-based diet is so beneficial, from everything from just living a day-to-day life to being a really active athlete, and why it can be such a good change to make in your life.
Right. And I mean, like you guys both said, I mean, you did drop the pounds, but it's more than just the weight that comes off. I'm sure that there was other things that kind of you noticed changes too, other than the weight.
I've definitely had a lot more energy since then. I mean, I've never had a problem with cholesterol or blood pressure. So it's just health-wise, it's just the best thing for me.
Wow.
What made you go full vegan? Like, why not at least some meat in moderation?
I think, at least for me, it was on a little bit more ethical ways, and also environmentally, it's just the best thing you can do for the environment is going to a plant-based diet. I mean, I support anyone's transition towards a, more plant-based diet, so I'm not all about extremes, but for me personally, it just works the best for my lifestyle.
I was going to say, I'm sure there's some people who are saying, like, oh, I could never give up tacos, or I could never give up this, but that's where you guys also can kind of show, like, it's not just you're eating a bowl of, lettuce and other vegetables. You've shown us, the jackfruit can be a substitute for some of those meats.
I mean, actually, it was interesting that when I went vegan and vegetarian, my culinary, experimenting really amped up. Like you really try a lot more foods and a lot more variety. Rather than just having your meat and potatoes on a plate, you're gonna experiment with different types of grains, vegetables that you've never even heard of before, and you're getting so many more nutrients involved with all that variety that you're experimenting with.
The big thing I hear from people that go vegan are, so where do you get your protein? So what do you do to get sufficient amount of protein?
So that's like the #1 question I get, and myself being an athlete and competing competitively, everyone asks, well, don't you need extra protein? Don't you need more than the average person? And in some ways that is true. You need protein for recovery, but being on that high carb, low fat, low protein diet gives you so much energy that you're really running off those carbs and the glycogen stores in your muscles. And there's a lot of protein to be found in even something like broccoli has almost as much protein as beef in it per calorie, but then you're cutting out the negative things like the extra animal fat and the inflammation that meat causes. So you get all the good without the negative. And then there's other things too, black beans, mushrooms, legumes. It's actually really easy to get the necessary protein on a plant-based diet. And even if you're someone like me who competes competitively and needs that extra calories.
Wow, yeah.
I did not know that. So what are you doing for competition?
I compete in triathlon.
Really?
Yep.
Brag about yourself.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We'll let him brag here. We'll take a quick break and then let him brag about his success after a plant-based